Hi, and welcome to the third installment of Clyde's Classic Collection of Vinyl. And this is, I'm 2 weeks late on this one. I'm sorry about that, but real life happens every once in a while and just couldn't get to it. Got to take care of the family, got to take care of myself. So, and I don't do a great job of that. But anyway, I had things to do. But here I am back on track. And today it's my mono collection. I've mentioned before that I have a lot of mono albums, and I actively collect them. I'm always online. I'm always looking for these things. And when I go into used record stores, I look for mono copies on vinyl. They're getting scarcer, and the prices of them have shot up pretty high. And some of the ones I'm missing, if I decide to get them, they're going to cost me. Unless I just happen to walk in a Goodwill one day and find it for a couple bucks. But that's not very likely. Anyway, I'm going alphabetically. And so this is episode will be The Animals, or Eric Burdon and the Animals as they became later on. Now this is the first album with House of the Rising Sun. It's got a short version of House of the Rising Sun for 2 minutes and 59 seconds. And even though the song was originally 4.5 minutes or so, but they had to cut it down because radio stations did not like playing 4-minute plus songs. They wanted short songs to keep the flow going. So they took out that middle part with the organ solo, which is great and really shouldn't have been taken out. But it was back in those days. So anyway, this is their first album, and it's doesn't have much. It shows the group and their likes and dislikes on here, just in case there's some lovely ladies out there at the time who were like, oh, he likes the same things I do. I'm going to run off to England and meet up with Eric Burdon or John Steele. I love them drummers, but I don't know if it helped them out or not. And and not only that, this is them on the front cover. They don't look like they don't look too cool, I guess you'd say, with those ties and stuff. But they did, it's kind of a mod looking type thing. I guess you could say they're kind of mod. I don't know. A little bit early for that, probably. Anyway, this is their first album, and it's E4264. That tells you, the E tells you it's mono. If it's stereo, the letter would start with S and then E4264. So this is all of these records I'm showing you begin with E. It's not that important unless you're looking to buy them. Real quick, here's how the original album covers, the vinyl looked. And, it's just MGM is the label they had all the way through their original career. Now, second album. This is their second album, On Tour. The thing about it is, they're not really on tour. This is a studio album. They don't even look like they're on tour. Maybe they're in a hotel room, or maybe they're at the airport ready to go on tour. I don't know. This album only had I'm Crying was a minor hit, I believe, but everything else was just the usual R&B blues stuff. Boom Boom, Bright Lights, Big City, Let's a Good Times Roll, Hallelujah, I Love Her So. She Said Yeah. You just, standard stuff. Nothing that they, it was really nothing I think that they wrote. Somebody else had to do that for them. On the same note, evidently the art department at MGM was really, really lazy. And they basically, this is the cover for Herman's Hermits. I'm Into Something Good album. Well, it says including their hit single. Actually, their bigger hit was Mrs. Brown, You Got a Lovely Daughter, but I guess Into Something Good was first. This is the art department basically used the same basic idea for this one. What a lazy bunch of MGM people. You want your album to stand out. Definitely not because of this album. Anyway, that's off the point. Next up was The Animals' third and biggest yet. It's Animal Tracks. And right here is the hype sticker, still stuck on there, and it says, featuring "We Gotta Get Out of This Place." The back shows them in army gear sitting on a railroad track. Now, if you don't get the joke, I'll tell you, they're the animals on the track. Hilarious, right? Anyway, this one here did have "We Gotta Get Out of This Place," which is a pretty big hit. It did have "Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood," another pretty big hit. But it's the rest of it is pretty much all the old, R&B and stuff like that. "Bring It On Home to Me," "Story of Bo Diddley," "Club a Go Go." Just, it wasn't anything except for those two main songs, and the rest of it was almost like filler. So that was their third album. And after only 3 albums they put out, their first best of, the best of the Animals. Now, I don't know. Eric Burdon was the lead singer, and he's a great singer. Alan Price was the keyboard player. Later on, he went on to he quit midway through their career, or maybe after 2 or 3 albums. He quit and became a solo singer, put out his own records. He was kind of popular maybe in the UK, but not really over here. And then John Steele was the drummer, and Hilton Valentine was the guitar player. But on this album, he's replaced by Dave Roberry. There's Dave right there. He replaced Hilton Valentine. Now, of note, that's Chas Chandler, the bass player. After leaving the band, he left the band midway through their career. He went to the U.S., went to a nightclub, and saw Jimi Hendrix playing in a blues R&B band, and he was impressed enough to bring Jimmy back to England, and the rest is history. It was a great thing for people because we got to hear this amazing Jimi Hendrix music. But maybe it wasn't so great for Jimi Hendrix because, he did put out these great albums, and I hope he was proud of them because most of it was great. But what happened was he just went downhill because of drugs and maybe alcohol and everything, and eventually he died. So, if he would have stayed in the U.S. and hadn't been popular, maybe he would still be alive today, still playing in clubs, maybe playing an R&B version of Purple Haze or something, whatever. But no, Chas Chandler ruined that for him. Anyway, who would have known? I think Hendrix was a great musician. I love his albums, but you have to feel a little sorry for the guy. Anyway, Best of the Animals came out somewhere in 1965 or so. Then next up, Animalism. Here there's a picture of them playing live. This one here doesn't have it has The Other Side of This Life, which is kind of a slow song, mostly Eric Burdon. Hey Gyp, which is a great version of a Donovan song. I like this version. Otherwise, they're doing like Hit the Road Jack, the Ray Charles song, and Lucille, stuff like that. Smokestack Lightning, which is, best known by the Yardbirds with Eric Clapton and also with Jeff Beck. It does have Louisiana Blues on it, and not that to me it's a great song necessarily, but hey, I'm in Louisiana, so maybe I appreciate the mention of the state. Maybe not. Oh, and I got this next one. Animalization. You kind of wonder if they're running out of titles. Animalization with Don't Bring Me Down, which is a great song. Don't bring them down. They're already possibly down anyway. But they were falling apart, and, this is pretty much the end of the original band. She'll Return It is on here. I remember that one's good. Inside Looking Out was later done by Grand Funk Railroad. I used to like that. C.C. Ryder, Gin House Blues. I Put a Spell on You is on here. Now, the best version of that song is by Creedence Clearwater Revival on their first album, and that's my favorite anyway. So this one here is, and this is produced by Tom Wilson instead of Mickey Most. The other ones were Mickey Most. Tom Wilson was also the producer of The Mother's Invention, early Simon and Garfunkel, or at least Simon and Garfunkel, I'm not sure, and many of your psych bands that were kind of like second tier bands that didn't make it big, but he did a lot of productions back then for a lot of people. So this was one of his early ones, probably before the other bands. But yeah, here's the back cover, Animalization. Next up, of course, is, you might as well say the band was gone by this point, because here is Eric Is Here. The rest of the band did not show up except for John Steele, the drummer. He was still holding out, maybe like, hey, drummers, we make the least amount of money because we don't write nothing, and I don't think the rest of the group did anyway. So he hung out with them, and he played on this album. But it's basically conducted and arranged by Benny Golson and Horace Ott, those two famous guys that I've never heard of. Anyway, this one here had Mama Told Me Not to Come, which was a big hit later on by Three Dog Night. And Help Me Girl was the biggest hit on here. That's a good song. But the rest of this album, to me, is a snooze fest. It's just Eric Burdon with session musicians. He's not really... It's just not anything here that I would say is, anything to write home about. Except for maybe Help Me Girl. But here he is, kind of looking like, please buy my record. I don't know if they really did back. Did he sell a lot of this one? I don't know. Anyway, the next was the Best of the Animals. This is called Best of Eric Burdon and the Animals. This is the only one left by this point. And it's volume 2. It has When I Was Young, great song, and A Girl Named Sandoz, which is probably the first real psych song by them. And it's great. I can't tell you. It's got fuzz, and if you don't like fuzz, you probably don't like psych. Maybe you like fuzz in your belly button, but I think it's better on record. Anyway, this one has Inside Looking Out, Cheating, Hey Jip Again, the Donovan song, Help Me Girl, C.C. Ryder, Don't Bring Me Down, that's a decent song, She'll Return It, but A Girl Named Sandoz and When I Was Young were the two standout tracks to me on this album. And here he is back on, he's looking like, yes, I am experienced, or whatever. Anyway, speaking of that line, the next one was they moved to the U.S., San Francisco area, and they became Eric Burdon and the Animals because he was now the leader of the band, and why not? So this was the one with San Francisco Nights on it, and that's a great song. I love that song. It had some minor hits in Good Times and Anything, which are both good songs. It's All Meat. It's a good song. It has a version, kind of a weird version of Painted Black on it, the Rolling Stones song. And also, Yes, I Am Experienced is on here. Now, he was pretty impressed with Jimi Hendrix. So, when Hendrix did Are You Experienced, Eric wanted, everyone to know that, yes, he was experienced. Experienced in what? I'm not real sure. Was it drugs or in music? I don't know. But he was experienced, and he understood what Hendrix was saying. So this one here is a fold out. It's, really kind of more psych looking. The back shows Eric evidently, giving a fan a, autograph. I don't know. But it's a good album. It's got the hype sticker for San Francisco Nights on it. Somebody stuck on that. Right after that, they put out this one, and this is my favorite of them all. The Twain Shall Meet in Now they stuck a mono sticker over the stereo to let you know. Now this is a promo copy, so it looks like this. You know, this is a special disc jockey record, not for sale. Well, I bought it, so I guess it was later on. This one has Monterey, you know, the hit Monterey, because of the Monterey Pop Festival, which, you know, 67, and they were, Eric Burdon and the Animals were there. And then Sky Pilot is on here. I love Sky. That's my favorite song by them, with House of the Rising Sun probably be second, and Monterey, San Francisco Nights. But this is the one in 1968, I believe. The Animals were coming to the Civic Center where I lived, and they were the main act, and the opening acts were Tommy James and the Shondells and the Turtles, which all those bands I loved. So, you know, they played, the first two bands came up and they played, and next it was time for Eric Burdon and the Animals. Well, they came out with this amazing light show. I mean, it showed a lot of war imagery, and some of it was pretty shocking. You know, I mean, we weren't used to seeing war footage at that time in '68, so, you know, it was like, wow. I mean, this is just blew your mind, but not in a good way, I guess. But it was, a lot of people were like, oh my God, you know, what is this? And, you know, of the imagery they were showing, dead bodies and stuff. But I thought it was a really cool light show. So, you know, I didn't feel that way. I thought, man, they went out of their way. You know, it was mostly during Sky Pilot when they played that. So it showed the war imagery. But anyway, on the radio before they came to town, they were playing the commercial saying, the Animals are coming. You know, remember House of the Rising Sun. And they were playing House of the Rising Sun in the background. You'll see them at the Civic Center on this date. So it was a pretty big crowd to see the Animals. Well, unfortunately for the audience, they never played House of the Rising Sun. They only played their psych stuff, which I appreciated and I loved. But most people were like, I heard people in the back of me saying things like, hey, when's the Animals coming out? I want to hear House of the Rising Sun. And then after a while, when they realized this was Animals, they were like, play House of the Rising Sun. Boo, you know, you suck, whatever, you know. And nobody seemed to appreciate them. I mean, in a way, I don't understand why they just went ahead and played that song. But it was probably more like, that's not us anymore. So they didn't. But otherwise, I mean, it was no problem to me because it was my first psychedelic show I've ever seen with the light show. And they didn't last too much longer after that. Now, this one, I do have a stereo copy of this album, and you probably should have the stereo copy of it or a CD because it benefits from the stereo. Now, this is a mono copy, so more than likely, you know, well, you don't hear a lot of the effects because everything in a mono is all in the middle. All the instruments, all the vocals are all in the middle of your stereo. And in stereo, of course, everything is, some things are on the left channel, some things are on the right channel, some things in the middle. But, you know, but a good psych album, you might appreciate the different mixes because sometimes the monos and the stereos, the songs sound a bit different. I haven't compared it that closely, but that could be possible. But this is a great album. Now, they did put out 2 more albums of their career on MGM, and the first one was Every One of Us, which is a terrible record in my opinion. I never could get through it. I don't own a copy at the moment. I am actively searching for a mono copy, but most of them are pretty expensive. You can pick up a stereo copy for $10, but stereo copy is going to cost you. So, which really isn't worth it because it only has a couple of good songs. It has You're the Guru and one more. The rest of it is just rambling to me or just not that great. After that, the last album they ever put out was Love Is, which had Zoot Money and Andy Summers joined the band. Andy Summers went on to join the Police as guitarist years later. But there was a song that them two guys put out. I forgot the name of the band. It might have been Suit Money, but it was a song called "Madman running through the forest," I think. And it was a really good psych song. And those two guys recorded that song. But when they joined up with the Animals, Eric Burdon recorded that song with them too. And I've never heard it because I've never owned that album. It also has a version of To Love Somebody, the Bee Gees song on there. And most of the songs are kind of long. Now, there are copies of that online in mono, but they're very expensive. They're going to run you at least $100. So that's the Animals went on and they reformed in the 80s. They had one called Before We Were So Rudely Interrupted, and their last one was called The Ark. And of course, Eric Burdon, after the Animals, the first incarnation, after the Love Is album, he joined up with War and did Spill the Wine, a big hit for him and them. And after that, he did some solo albums, but never was, back to the popularity of the Animals, Eric Burdon. And, that's my mono collection stories for the day. And, look up in further episodes. I'll be doing the Beach Boys, the Beatles, somewhere along the line, the Rolling Stones and the Doors, just about all your major big groups. I have, if not a complete collection, I got as many as possible I could get. But this is Clyde saying goodbye, and I promise I will do one quicker next time. And maybe I'll, kind of keep my facts straight. I kind of ramble a lot. You get older and you ramble. You lost that filter. You just kind of like, yeah, you young folks these days, type stuff. But that's not the way I look at things. I just, but I feel like when people see me, they probably go, look at that old guy, with that long hair. But hey, it's me. That's how I feel. I'm retired. I can do what I want. So this is me. If you don't like it, I really don't care. So anyway, now I'll quit rambling. Thank you for watching Clyde's Classic Collection of Vinyl, and I'll see you next time. Let me push that little button.